another episode of I Demand a Homestead. My name is Amanda, and today what we're going to be talking about is how to load your wood stove for an evening overnight burn. So we've kind of got the perfect scenario going on here. Our fire is nice and hot, but we're getting down to a little bit of the coals of what we have left. We've been burning all day, so we've got a really nice bed of coals here. So this is the perfect time to try and load it up for the night. So what you want to do, beyond having a nice really hot stove with a really big kind of bed of coals, you want to try and create a space where the wood can burn either from the top down or the front to the back. You don't want kind of a loose pile of wood where it can burn in all different directions at once, because then it's going to burn very, very quickly. So what we kind of want to do is, you can kind of see down here, I'm going to load up the wood kind of in a fashion like this all the way across the wood stove, so that way, and we're going to have the coals at the front here, and so it's going to burn from the front and burn back over the nighttime. So this is how we're going to kind of put our logs into the wood stove. So they're going to be kind of perpendicular, if you will, to the front of the opening of the stove. All right, so what I'll do now, and you got to be a little careful because obviously it's pretty hot. So don't burn yourself. It's very important. Okay, so what we'll do first of all, let me get my little fire poker here. We're gonna open up the stove. Oh yes, and the flue is gonna be wide open to start with, okay? So maximum airflow. And as usual, I'm gonna open that stove for just a moment, kind of partially open, so that way the pressure equalizes, so I don't get a face full of smoke when I open it all the way. And this is going to be very hot, so be careful. So you can see we've got lots of coals. Can you come in nice and close so you can see that? You see we got lots of coals here. And we're going to kind of try and even them out so it's level. And then I'm going to pull a whole bunch of them to the front, because again, I want this to burn from the front to the back. All right, so this is good to go now. You can see how hot that is. You can barely kind of be that close to it. Awesome. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start loading them in. I'm basically, because I can't get too close, I'm just kind of throwing them in because it's just too hot. And then what I can do is move them to where I want. You can see it's so hot, it's going to kind of spontaneously catch fire here. Now we're going to get a little bit of smoke coming out. That's okay. And what we're going to do is try and do a little bit of a Jenga puzzle here and try and kind of fill in those spaces as best we can. Now it's not going to be perfect. Just do the best you can. Okay. Hoping this one's going to go in here. This might be a bit tight. Oh, there it goes. Okay. So this is pretty good. All right. I could put a few smaller pieces in here, but I'm not too worried about that. So then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to close this up most of the way. I'm leaving about a 1 or 2 inch gap open just to get this really hot to start with before I start closing it. So what we're going to do is we're going to leave this for about 5 or 10 minutes until it's like really, really hot and flaming. And then we'll show you how to kind of start gradually closing it up and closing down the flue so you get a really slow burn. All right, so we'll be back in just a few minutes. All right, we're back. So this is probably about, I actually let this open for about 10 minutes, just because I wanted to make sure it's really, really good and hot. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna close the door. And the flue is still completely open. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna kind of watch what happens. Now, ideally, this is still going to continue burning hot, and it'll keep looking like this, and then I can gradually close the flue. I usually do that kind of over 2 or 3 steps until we kind of get a slow kind of more deep red flame instead of this bright yellow flame. I heard it once described as the bowels of hell, which is kind of a fairly good description. So right now this is looking pretty hot, but probably what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this again for a few more minutes, probably about 5 minutes, and then I'll close it up a little bit more, and then I'll close it up a little bit more again. All right, so I'll come back in a few minutes to show you what I'm going to do when I close it up again. So now it's been about 5 more minutes and this is still burning really, really hot. So I'm gonna close the flue probably about maybe 1/4 to 1/3 of the way. So I'm gonna show you down here, this is where our flue is. And get a little closer, you can see it's super hot down here. I can close it all the way. This is completely closed, which I'm not gonna do. I'm gonna close it about 1/3. And then we're gonna kind of wait and see what happens. So we're still burning really, really nice and hot. So I'm gonna close the flue a little bit more. Kind of see it here. I'm gonna close it another 1/3. Now just for your information, this is a non-catalytic stove, but it is still an EPA 2020 rated stove. So it is designed to be more efficient than the old kind of wood stoves. So most wood stoves built before, if you closed up the flue completely, they would go out. This one is designed not to be completely airtight because that actually makes it burn more efficiently. So I can actually, if it's hot enough, which I might be able to do tonight, I can sometimes close it up completely, and that gets us to that kind of really, really slow burn. So I've gone ahead after about 5 more minutes and closed the flue entirely. And as you can see now, the flame is really only at the very top of the wood. And so this is going to allow, I can kind of come in here and do an extreme close up. This is going to allow the fire to burn just from the top down, and it's not going to burn in any other direction. And so that is basically the way I'm going to leave it for the whole night. And then in the morning, we'll be able to start that fire right back up again. So this has been another episode of I Demand a Homestead. Thank you very much for joining me. And if you like what you saw in this video, please feel free to press the subscribe button so that way you can kind of see all the other videos in this series where we talk about kind of how the different parts of the wood stove, as well as how to get your wood stove burning in the first place. And then hopefully we'll see you on another episode. So take care and have a good night. Bye-bye.